Good afternoon and welcome to Finding Strength at a Fragile Time with my very, very special guest today, Beverly Chimes. I'm so excited to have her on board. I'm going to invite you, Beverly, to introduce yourself because there are going to be people on the recording maybe that don't know you. And for those people who don't know me, I'll introduce myself afterwards, but I just wanted to open that up to you.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here. I'm Beverly Chimes. I'm a life coach and social worker. I work with women, professional women mostly, and help them to prioritize their well-being. A lot of women that I work with are super busy and they come way down on the list of to-dos. They're somewhere near the bottom. And if we really want to be able to show up and make the impact that we want to make, we actually have to look after ourselves. So a lot of my work is helping them prioritize their wellness and their well-being so that they can make the impact that they want to make. And I'm so happy to be here today.
Amazing. Thank you so, so much. So for those who don't know me on the call, I know those of you who are actually on the call know me, but I know that there are people on the recording. So I'm Justine Friedman, and I have been living in Israel now for 4 years. On the 5th of November was our anniversary, which 4 years seems like a really long time, but at the same time, like no time at all. And it's been quite a roller coaster since living in Israel. And one of the good things that I can take out of it is that living here has taught me about learning tools for resilience and to manage really big life challenges. I think the first one that we faced was Corona, coming to Israel, living in Israel. Anyway, just this change in culture and everything, learning to live with the fluidity of being in this country, because even in normal times, when a teacher says, tomorrow this is what time school's going to end, and then you get a message from your daughter, are you fetching me at 11:30 instead of 3 o'clock? And you're like, what? When did this change? You know, in South Africa, everything was so kavua, everything was so regulated, and you could like set your clock by things. And in Israel, we are learning to deal with so much more change. So professionally, I work as a clinical dietitian and a mindset mentor. And why I find that the mindset component is so important and why I love the work that Beverly does is because when we have belief in ourselves, when we are able to challenge the norms that the rest of the world tends to impose on us, we have the ability then to live with greater inner peace and peace within ourselves, which I think is so incredibly important. So besides the tools that I give my clients with how to make better eating choices in order to nourish their unique bodies, doesn't mean that what one person has will be the same for another person. No matter how perfect a plan they can be given, if their mindset is not in line with the goals that they're trying to achieve, then they're fighting with themselves all the time. So the tools that we're going to be discussing today and the forum that I've created with Beverly as my guest today is in order to be able to help you to be as strong, as resilient as possible, and also to be able to nourish yourself, not only with the foods that you're choosing to eat, but also the self-care practices that you are implementing in your life as well. So what I've done on all of these forums is I invite everybody to go around and give just a sense of where they're holding, what they are feeling currently. And then we'll give a little bit of input with each person after each person has spoken. But really at the end, what we're going to do, and I'm going to invite Beverly to do as my guest today, is to give her expertise on some of these very important tools and strategies so that you do find that regulating yourself at this time, feeling calmer, more grounded, that you can come away with these tools, because they are not only tools for surviving this current crisis that we are going through, but tools for life. And everyone, no matter where you are holding, can benefit from this. So I'm going to open the floor and I'm going to invite Annette, if you want to start first with just giving us an idea. I know you already started speaking a bit before I started the recording, but just where you're holding and what you would like extra support with today.
So I think it's been ups and downs. Last night it was definitely, I definitely had a difficult time sleeping. Maybe because of the rain. The worry of the soldiers in the rain really weighed in on me. My daughter's boyfriend is there, and he had called and said he was wet and his stuff, at least he had covered it, but he wasn't sure if he was going to find a dry place to sleep and things like that. It just added to every time I heard the boom from the skies and the loud, in the rain, I was like, damn, I can't sleep and I don't know. And that's me, and I'm in a bed. So, just that added to a little extra anxiety that I had. Learning to, stop, listen to what I need, what I don't need, things that are difficult for me. If I'm finding it difficult to like look for new clients and things like that, I just take a step back and say, okay, so maybe this isn't the right time. And there's a lot of stuff that I can do internally for my business, as opposed to trying to advance it, and just know that I need to eat and nourish myself with healthy foods, all that other good stuff, and breathe and make sure that I'm drinking enough water, all of the advice that I've heard from both of you over the time. I'm just trying to make sure that I practice self-care. And yesterday was the first day that I actually got on the bicycle. So Justine, wow, yay. First time in like 44 days or whatever. I actually got up. Yeah, I got up. It wasn't at 5 o'clock in the morning or 4:45, but at least I got up and I said, I need to exercise, and it doesn't matter how fast I ride or what my heart rate is. At least I'm moving my body, because I know that can be good for me. So hopefully
I'm curious
tomorrow.
how you felt after that. Did you see it? Did you feel a difference?
No, I didn't. But, if I don't take care of myself, I know I can't take care of other people. And so I know that I need to do it. I don't think I really liked doing it before, the riding of the bicycle. So it's like, I was like, wow, I'm really glad to get back to it. I was never like sports fanatic, but trying to get back to a routine, create a routine, I think really is helpful as well.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing. I'm going to ask Viva if you're happy to open your camera and your microphone and just also share with us where you are.
Sorry, my internet's not working great today.
That's okay. Just if you can as long as we can hear you, that'll be good.
Okay, thanks. And I'm not home at the moment, so so like I'm just saying that it's like quite sad what's going on, because I'm worried about the hostages, the soldiers. Nothing seems to be like, every day seems to be the same stories, but different things happening. So like it's like a worry, it's like you upset and tense, and like even like when the kids go out, you like worry for them, I don't know, it's just like a very tense situation at the moment, and like you're not happy inside yourself. You're not like you were like before the 7th of October. Like things have changed so much. You just can't believe. It's just too much for even your mind to comprehend what's going on, and I just hope that they're okay with everybody,
And so it sounds to me like, I know on the first session that you joined me on, your initial concern was more about the safety of your own family, and that for you was very hard when your kids were going out. I remember you saying like when everyone was at home at night, like that for you was the best time and the time to feel safe. It sounds to me like you're more accustomed now to everyone leaving and coming home, but the worry is now extended past your immediate family. And I think that is something that most of us are feeling. And I'm going to ask Beverly to address that in the general discussion that we're going to have later. So thank you, Beverly. Anything else you wanted to add?
Thank you. I just wish I could just like before, like the eating was better, and now it's gone a little bit worse because you like worry intense all the time, you know.
Are you finding yourself reaching for like more comfort kind of foods, or just finding that you're just wanting food more because of how you're feeling?
I think comforting more, comforting, yeah.
Okay.
And how am I feeling? I mean, I'm sure it would have been if had the circumstances been different. I think it would have been different. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So both Beverly and
Thank
I'll address that
you.
for you in our
Thanks so
discussion.
much. Thank you.
Okay. Mom, would you like to open your microphone and share how you are feeling, and if there's anything in particular for you that you're looking for support with? Are you able to unmute? There we go.
Is that better?
Yeah,
I can't get the picture to be alive. I don't know why.
that's okay. We can hear you.
Oh, okay. Okay, well, basically, I'm trying to stick to routine and to exercise and do the activities that I'm, used to doing. About going into the swimming pool, I find that a little bit challenging because in case I have to jump out quickly and run to a shelter, I rather don't do that. The thing that really worries me is how I can actually support friends who have family in Gaza, who have grandsons and family, and you don't know how to comfort them. You don't know how to sort of tell them it'll be okay when we don't know if it'll be okay. And I think that's the difficult part I'm having, is trying to be more supportive to others and how to be supportive to them.
I think that's very important, because I think so many of us are feeling like that, especially if we're not directly as like on the front lines.
Exactly.
And there's a sense of loss that we're feeling, of like how to be able to give that support in a meaningful way, because that's also like, how do we give them the right support for them for right now. Maybe I'm not articulating this well enough. I know Beverly will have my back on this. I seem to be very brain foggy today. Another sign of stress at this time, especially for our, group of women, 40 and over, the hormone changes and everything. I think it's, for me, that's an indication of my stress. Is if my brain fog is better, then I know I'm managing okay. And when it dips, then I know that I'm taking more strain. It's very interesting. Okay, so Beverly, I'm going to ask you to address those three main areas that both Annette and Aviva and Zara, Mom, brought up. And
Pleasure.
right, so take it away.
So I'm going to start by addressing those things, and then let's talk about some more conceptual ideas that then we can bring into our daily lives. So I think, Zara, I'm going to start with you. I found for people around me that everyone needs different kinds of support. Like, there's no ways you can tell them it's going to be okay, because we don't know that it's going to be okay, and you don't even know what okay means. So just being present with some of your friends is enough. You don't have to fix, and you don't have to promise, and you don't have to provide. Like, all they might be wanting is someone sitting with them. Some of my friends do not want to be sat with, so then we'll go for a stroll, or we'll go, I don't know, to IKEA and pick up what they need from IKEA. Your different friends are going to be able to tolerate different activities and not tolerate other activities. So it's really knowing them well and just asking them, like, what do you feel like doing? Do you feel like sitting and having a cup of coffee? Do you feel like going for a stroll? Is there any errand you need to run? Can I run it with you? Like, that's really how you can provide support in the most gentle, easy, compassionate way. You don't need to fix and solve for anyone. And I think just in terms of Aviva, what you were talking about, a client of mine came up with the most wonderful phrase, and I use it all the time. She says, I'm just being where my feet are. And I love that, because we talk about being in the present and we talk about being in this moment, but it's so solid to think like, I'm just going to be where my feet are. Like, okay, my feet are under my desk. I'm just going to be at my desk right now. And it cuts down a lot of the fears and a lot of anxieties and a lot of the worries, because honestly, 90% of what we fantasize, 95, 98% of what we fantasize doesn't come about. Certainly doesn't come about in the way that we thought it would. So it's this angst and worry and despair for 98% of stuff that's not going to happen. So what if we replace that with, I'm just going to be where my feet are, and come back to the present moment, to where you're at. And Annette, I think you brought up like you sound like you're doing a great job of taking care of yourself. Wow, you really are.
I'm getting all the information from the two of you and from everybody else, and it just, the things that I've worked with Justine, the things that she said about like I'll put my hand on my chest or like my heart, and I'll say I'm safe where I am now.
Mm-hmm.
And then you every time, like, breathe. Beverly says breathe. Beverly says breathe. Beverly says breathe. It's so I think that's why I feel like I'm as okay as I can be, because I'm using the techniques
You're doing a great
that I've
job.
picked up.
You're doing a great job. I mean, you've taken a whole lot of pieces and you've combined them into looking after yourself and into self-care and self-regulation. Like, you're doing a really good job. Just keep on what you're doing. So I wanted to bring a few ideas today that might help us. Whenever I ask someone how they are, they kind of come with this double language. I'm okay, well, as good as I could be. I'm all right, considering the circumstances. There's this like, I'm okay and I'm not. And what if we just start by accepting that? Like, we're where we are, we're feeling what we're feeling, and it's all welcome and it's all acceptable and it's all okay. So let's start with that piece. Another thing that I keep hearing is a comparison of I'm okay or I'm not okay, and I shouldn't not be okay because someone has it worse than me. And I'm not going to go through the levels of who's got it worse than who. We all know someone that is in a potentially more stressful situation than ourselves. And somehow people are using that to invalidate their right to feel angry, frustrated, sad, whatever feelings are coming up, resentful, anything, worried. Someone else's reality does not need to be a measure for where you're allowed to be. You're allowed to be exactly where you're at. Someone who is struggling more than you does not need you to feel guilty that you're not struggling as much as them. It doesn't alleviate anything for them. And they have no desire for someone else to be struggling as much as them. You're allowed to feel happy if someone isn't. You're allowed to feel angry if someone else who has it worse than you isn't. So there's this guilt over continuing our lives, or there's this guilt over not having it as bad as someone. Like, someone said to me, like, when I laugh, I feel so guilty. And I was at a bris last week and I spoke to a soldier and he just encapsulated it beautifully. And I asked him if they're okay and if they were getting enough food and if they're being looked after. He's like, we're fine. He said, we need you to be strong. And I don't want to say like we have to be strong and we're not allowed to feel, but what he was saying is like, look after yourselves and be the best that you can be. You don't have to feel bad because we're not here at the moment. You don't have to feel guilty because you like go out for a coffee with a friend. Like, carry on living lives. That's what they're fighting to enable us to do. So this might be coming a lot across as like a little heavy, but it's not what's intended. What's intended is we have permission. We have permission to feel whatever we're feeling, whether that's happiness or angst, and the whole range in between. So that was another idea I wanted to bring to you. I think since October 7th, everything has changed. Like, just our whole lens, our whole way that we function, the whole way that we analyze the world, everything has changed. We've changed in what we can tolerate in our daily lives, and even a day is such a huge expanse of time. We've changed what we can tolerate, like within 10 minutes, 5 minutes, a half an hour. And we've also changed the capacity of what we can be involved in and what we can't be involved in. And I'd like to look at this as like, really our bandwidth has changed. Some parts of our bandwidth have stretched, and some parts of our bandwidth have shrunk. And every single one of us is going to be completely different from anyone else. And this is a unique experience within a societal experience. And I recommend that each of us get super curious about where have we expanded our bandwidth and where's our bandwidth shrunk. So maybe our bandwidth shrunk in having less capacity for focus at work. Maybe our stints at work need to be in smaller blocks, broken up more. And maybe our capacity has expanded in our reaching out to a friend, or in our need to sit on the couch and stare into space, or into going to do volunteer work, or focusing on making a soup. So each of our capacities have expanded in some areas and shrunk in some areas. So what if we look at the following questions? In terms of where your capacity and bandwidth has expanded, what makes you feel better? What brings you comfort? What helps you catch your breath for a moment and go like, okay, just for a moment? What is soothing to you? And that's where your bandwidth has expanded. And those are the things that I would encourage you to put into your everyday life and to do more. And then let's look at where your bandwidth has shrunk. Where are you feeling triggered? Where do you feel more angst? Are there certain places or people or circumstances that just raise your whole worry and anxiety levels like substantially? What activities just feel like unbearable? And then take that understanding and shrink those areas of your life as much as you possibly can. Like, let that bandwidth get even smaller. And for some people, it's going to be like scrolling. Or for some people, it's going to be watching the news. For some people, it's going to be interacting with certain people. There might be certain people in your life who you don't have to interact with all that often, and they are like super triggering. So where you can, minimize that. You don't have to be in those situations. When we talk about resilience, we talk about experiencing difficulty and coming back to some level of neutral. That to me is what resilience is. Resilience isn't we don't experience, we're okay all the time. That's like la la land. Reality and resilience is ups and downs, and try to come back to some neutral ground, some like some place where we self-regulate and we take care of ourselves again. And part of that resilience is coming back to our routine. The more we can create our routine or come back to a similar routine that we had before October 7th, that is really important, is coming back to routine and to create some form of stability. And that brings with itself a whole juggle, because we're balancing normal everyday life and the war, and normal everyday life and the war, and have to do the laundry, and did you hear about so-and-so? And I need to go to work, and I'm focusing on worrying about whatever. And this is the juggle that we're doing all the time. And it picks up pace at some point and it slows down at other points, but this is what we're doing. So I want to try and give us some techniques and tools to help us do this juggle, because we're juggling full time. So the first technique is something I call the check-in, where you just take a few minutes and it's as if you're scanning down your body, letting like a scanner just run over you, and you're literally checking in. You're going, how do I feel? What part of my body am I noticing more? What part of my body is drawing my attention? What feels tight? What feels achy? Just where am I? What am I experiencing? What am I experiencing physically? And what am I experiencing emotionally at the moment? And once you have that information, the next question is, and what do I need now? What is the smallest thing that I need now? And it might be breathing, it might be a walk, it might be time alone, it might be time with someone, it might be a project that you want to focus on, it might be a home project, it might be a work project. But the question needs to be answered, what do I need right now? And then do everything you possibly can to make that happen. And obviously there are time constraints on us, but where possible, meet that need in the healthiest way you possibly can. The second technique is Dr. Wheel created this breathing called 4-7-8 breathing. Super simple, very deep, totally effective. Breathe in through your nose for 4, hold for 7, out your mouth for 8. He's suggesting 3 rounds of it. So let's try it. Breathe in through your nose for 4, hold for 7, out your mouth slowly for 8. And repeat. It's really calming. It's really chilled. You don't need any special equipment or any special space for it. 4-7-8 breathing. Easy. Another one I like is, I think Justine might have done it also, is just rubbing your arms. Just rubbing your arms and saying, in this moment, I'm okay. Super soothing. In this moment, I'm okay.
It's like giving yourself like a hug, like it's your
It is. It's like giving, yes,
yourself.
it's like giving yourself a hug. It's that contact, it's that pressure, it's that movement. I mean, I get chills every time I do it. It's just,
it also brings you back to where you are. It's a way of like self-grounding, because I think
yes,
when your mind is traveling, you lose where you are in your body. So that's a great way of also just recentering your focus onto, this is where I am. Like, as you said, like, this is where my feet are right now. This is where I find myself right now. That's wonderful.
Yes, it's an easy, grounding, soothing, comforting, lovely thing to do. And then another one is putting your hand on your forehead and your hand behind your head, holding your neck. And it's also super grounding, and you're just feeling held. And again, you could say some words with this right in this moment. I'm okay. And the other part is really finding a place where you can speak. So find yourself a space, find yourself a person. Find a place where you don't have to hold back, where you don't have to filter, where you don't have to pretend you're not or pretend you are. That's really vital. Like, let's get the stuff up and out. That's what I do with my clients. I provide a space for them, and it's vital. Like, we just, with all these techniques, if we're still holding onto a whole lot of stuff, there's only so much we're going to be able to do. We actually just need to get it up and out. Someone bear witness, someone hear us, and just cleanse what's going through our heads.
I think what you're saying is very important. And I'd like to add one thing onto exactly what you're speaking about now. I'm sure everyone can relate to this. It came up for me that at a time like this, where we're dealing with so many emotions and so many difficult emotions, it's often also a re-triggering of past traumas.
Yes.
They don't have to be huge traumas like that, you know, but even things that maybe you thought you had dealt with, that now this is just like opened the wound with.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why so many of us are grappling more, especially those of us who also don't have maybe somebody so much on the front lines, that besides the urgency of the situation that we're dealing with, we've got our own stuff that's bubbling to the surface that, and I think especially if we've never dealt with certain things before and we've just like pushed past it, that those are coming back and asking for attention. So
Yes.
I'm wondering if that's also coming up for you in consultations with people. It's not only about what the stuff is now that we're dealing with, it's also this underlying things that we can always work through. You know, I think there are always layers to our life experiences that we need to lift those layers of and understand with greater depth as time goes on. So I'm just interested in how you can differentiate between like what's being addressed and what's coming up for now, and when you see those deeper layers coming through as well.
I'm so glad you brought that up. I'm totally seeing that all the time. And I mean, I had a session this morning with someone who just related, and the question was, what is this reminding you of? That takes us to the old stuff. Like, what is this reminding you of? And she brought up her own experiences of what this is triggering for her in her own past experiences. And none of us have woken up today with no history. So, what we're going through is unprecedented, and also it's poking old sleeping bears. So if you can give yourself the time and space to look into that with someone, I think that's a tremendous gift, because to think that everything was just born today or everything was just born on the 7th of October is also incorrect. There's old stuff that's coming up, and even if it's been worked on, it's coming up in a new way, or it's just reminding you that, hey, I also went through that. So those are really important to see and to distinguish and to be present to. That old stuff is coming up. And then the technique that I discussed with my client today was to actually give it space. Instead of squashing it away and saying, no, that's not about this war. That's old stuff. No, can't have that. What if rather she gave it space and was allowed to acknowledge it, instead of it having to explode in different ways out?
And that's the value, I think, in having somebody to speak it out with, because it can feel
Yes.
so overwhelming, bringing these things up again. And I'm just wondering, with the ladies on the call here, if there has been any re-triggering for you of anything that's coming up. As I'm speaking, there was a session that I had with a trauma therapist, I think it was almost 2 weeks ago, and she actually helped me to somatically shift a past experience which had happened to me in South Africa, where it was a traumatic experience for me, and it definitely has helped me to calm and shift that. But there's even sometimes things we can't name that are bringing up these feelings and these emotions, and our body is reacting to the energy of the time and the situation, and to hearing other people's experiences and words, and that's why I think also adjusting how much time we are spending scrolling and listening to the news and being on social media is a big part of this, because we don't realize how much we are absorbing from the outside. And I think
triggering ourselves all the time.
But there's this balance also between, we want to pretend it's not happening, because that's a survival mechanism. If I don't know about it and I can't see it and I can't hear it, then it can't be it, then it's not happening. But at the same time, knowing that we have a responsibility to also be aware of what's going on. So there's also this dance between the two things, and then that is something that we're absorbing into our bodies as well.
I think we are exhausted from the amount of choices and decisions we have to make all day long. What am I involving in? What am I stepping back from? What am I getting into? What am I avoiding? Like, what's coming up for me now? Where's this from? What the heck is this? Can't move, can't focus, ultra active, flying off here, super active, flying off there. We are juggling a whole lot of things at all different times, and it's hard work. It's exhausting.
It's exhausting, and there's also no end in sight. I had a client this morning, and on the call with her, she said to me, if somebody were to tell me for 4 months, this is what I'm going to have to live with, I would tick the days off and I would deal with it, and I would know that there was something that I'm moving towards. And I think this is also part of what I'm sensing everyone is feeling more. We are now into the 7th week of this war, that it's like, how much longer am I going to have to manage this? How much longer is this going on for?
What's going to happen?
Yes.
What's going to happen?
Yeah. And I think that's where so many of us are feeling depleted.
Yes.
And if you don't mind, if I just address Aviva's question about emotional eating, because it's something that's coming up for a lot of my clients, and even for myself. Like, these are old triggering. I'm very open about the fact that I've had a very challenging relationship with food in my life. Very grateful that I am a dietitian and I've learned to manage it, but there's still stuff that comes up from time to time. And I also found myself eating very emotionally, not in the first week so much, but like in the second week, like that the initial shock of everything was like lost my appetite. And then all of a sudden, like, now your appetite returns because you have to be going through life. And I find that, and Aviva, I'd love you to comment on this if any of this is resonating for you, but I think that when we are so worried, so concerned, feeling so unsafe, and we're looking for food as that comfort, the concern with that is that even when I'm eating that food that is meant to make me feel better, I still don't. So now I'm dealing with a double problem. I'm dealing with a problem of eating food that maybe I normally would try, I'm going to put this in inverted commas, be good about avoiding, because I'm trying to These are all words I don't normally like to use. Lose weight, things I would cheat on, you know, and when I'm now using that food because I'm feeling awful, I'm feeling so anxious, worried, afraid, uncertain, depleted, and then to top it all, now I'm feeling guilty because I'm eating the food and shameful for eating that food or eating more of it. And I've made a promise to myself and now I'm breaking that promise to myself. Then it just adds another whole layer onto it and it drains our energy even further. So I'm wondering how it would feel if you were to acknowledge that I'm going through a really tough time, even if you can't name the emotion that you're feeling, and say, right now, what I really feel like doing is eating X. Last week, I sent my son to buy nosh noshim for me. I mean, it's something I hardly ever have, but that's like a real comfort food. And instead of just, you know, gulping it down and eating it mindlessly, I was like, right, my intention with this is because I want to feel a little bit better. I think this is going to hit the spot. I acknowledge that it may not make a difference, but I put it in a bowl and I slowly eat each piece and enjoy it. And in doing it in that way, first of all, we create also a space for eating to be less suppressing an emotion as opposed to it being part of a pleasurable experience that we then don't feel all of those added extra emotions with. There's not as much guilt associated. There's not as much shame because we're not now just shoving food. It's about saying, I'm doing this in a way that I am valuing my experience, my emotion, where I'm at, and what I feel I need in this moment. Aviva, I'd love to hear from you if you think that could be something you could try.
Yes, definitely. That's definitely, yeah, for sure.
The other
It
thing,
makes sense that
good.
what you're saying, yes.
The other thing is that when we try to be good, restrictive, on a diet, Annette, I'm sure you're laughing because these are all words I never normally use. And we are going through so much emotional uncertainty, leading this double life as Beverly described, you know, living alongside the war, there's this duality of having to live our life, but this is in the background all the time and what plays a role. If we add onto that the pressure of wanting to restrict our eating and lose weight and really push for these wellness goals that maybe in normal situations may be slightly unrealistic for us, now it's going to create more of a drive for that emotional eating, for that comfort food. So what I'm suggesting is perhaps for where you are right now, you could, instead of worrying about how well you're eating or how poorly you're eating, focus on and ask a similar question to what Beverly was saying. What would give me the best feeling right now in my body? What would help me to feel both comforted and energized? What would help me to feel the most positive in my body right now? And if that's a piece of chocolate cake, that's great. But if it's, hold on, I know that especially in this cold weather, a really thick vegetable soup would go a long way for me to feel comforted and nourished, then I can still eat the chocolate cake, but I'm going to invest in making also food choices that are going to be more in line with giving me a better sense of energy, positive feeling in my body. How does that feel for you, Aviva?
No, that feels good. I've been like making healthier foods as well.
Okay.
You know, like quite a lot of healthier ones, and also doing exercises, like walking and everything. But no, definitely, I'm going to try what you said. It makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
Pleasure. The other thing that I want to add on to that, and we can use this at any time, is that when you are showing up for yourself, give yourself the validation for that. So, for example, when you're doing the exercise, Annette, like the fact that you got on the bike again is amazing. When you are showing up for yourself and doing the exercise, afterwards go, wow, I'm so grateful to myself for showing up in that moment. It may have been a bit difficult, and maybe I didn't completely enjoy it, and maybe that's something we need to address on another time. But just like amazing. And when I sit down and I create a meal for myself that I know is going to give me good fuel, then say to myself, wow, that was great. I'm so proud of myself for making that choice. And not the only focusing on what we aren't doing and beating ourselves up for the things that we aren't maybe getting right or managing to do. So I think it's also about being able to have this balance of compassion for ourselves at the time, as well as validating what we are doing. So this morning with the rain, I normally say Matahilim sitting on the mepeset, my cushion was wet, and so I ended up saying it in my bed, and I was like, I could have stayed there the whole day. So sometimes we just need also just that time and saying, I'm giving myself a pocket of time to be able to have the space to exactly what Beverly said. What do I need right now that is going to help me to feel good? And the other thing which I brought up in 2 weeks ago is also being able to give the worry the space, whether it's doing it with somebody who is a professional, or whether it's, as I mentioned previously on my call with Malka 2 weeks ago, writing out how you're feeling, giving that expression to how you are. And if you're finding that you're worrying a lot all the time, and perhaps, as Beverly said, only 2% of those worries may ever come to fruition, give those worries still a space to be heard, but in a structured time, only for a certain amount of time, so that you don't let it, drag on and on and on, because that also then depletes you.
Great, beautiful points. Beautiful.
Thanks so much.
I wanted to address, Justine, that you said we don't know how long this is going on for. We have no idea. And there's a very old AA technique where one of their biggest mantras is just for today. And right now, we just need to take things a day at a time. And I know, like, every time a new week begins, I'm like, no way. You're going to do another week of war? And it's such a heavy feeling. And then I try switch to like, okay, let me just take the next half a day. Let's just see, like, what am I doing today? What am I doing tomorrow? And that's it. Like on Sunday, someone can ask me about, like, I don't know, do I want to go for a walk on Wednesday? I'm like, I don't know. Ask me on Tuesday. Like, let's just bring our time frames to really small, just for today, just for right now, just for what I can manage to show up for.
Absolutely. I think that's important, and that's valuable not only for what we're going through right now, but that's a valuable lesson for life in general. It's certainly something I encourage my clients to do, especially when they're trying to make big changes, is that if you can rather focus on right here, right now, just for today doing something, you have a greater chance of long-term success in general. So, because again, like trying to think of managing this in a much bigger framework is definitely, it's overwhelming, it's heavy, as you said. And with anything in life that we're trying to negotiate, just those small bite-sized pieces that just for today, where I happen to be right now in this moment, is incredibly valuable.
Yeah.
Having said that, I am hosting a webinar, a masterclass in 2 weeks' time for those of you who can think that far ahead, and I would love you to join me for that. It will not be a free one. This is an incredible paid masterclass. So, for those of you who can plan ahead, great. For those of you who need to book the day before, also happy to have you on the call.
I'm sure it's going to be excellent.
Thank you. It's all on the vagus nerve. So if there's also like skills and tools that you're looking for, Aviva, you joined my masterclass that I ran on this in June. So I hope you're still using the tools that you learned there. And for anybody who hasn't been on that masterclass, it really is incredibly valuable. And there's a whole workbook that goes together with that. So
yeah, I am using the tools and they're really great.
good,
It was a
excellent.
good course.
Good,
Thank you.
Good. All right. Is there anything else anybody else wants to address today before we tie this all up and end? No other questions? Okay. Then I'm going to thank Beverly very much for joining us today. It was a beautiful and intimate session, and I'm sure those people who are going to watch the recording will also find it incredibly valuable. And for those who haven't been present today, you are more than welcome to reach out to both of us. Beverly, are you available at all for any follow-up?
Yes, I am. I wanted to offer anyone who's registered for the webinar a free half-hour. Let's see where you're at. Let's see what you're struggling with. Let's come up with some solutions. Let's just give you space. So that's what I'm happy to offer. I think the recording's going to go out, so a link will include in there a link for my calendar. Feel free to book in, and I'm happy to show up and support you.
Wonderful. That's amazing. And I think so valuable, especially at a time like this. And to have half an hour with you one-on-one is huge value. So thank you. Thank you. And thank you for giving of your time today. Loved having you on the call with me, and I've learned from you as well. I think we all have the opportunity to share skills, and it's really incredibly valuable. Thank you, Beverly.
Thank you, really. It's been wonderful. Thank you, everybody, for being with us. And I look forward to getting in touch, getting to help more, bringing more ideas and more value.
Thank you so much. All right.